Hello everyone, welcome to our channel. In this episode, we'll tell you about ancient Finno-Ugric religious beliefs. We will explain this old ancient as best we can. Before starting the video, please don't forget to like our videos and subscribe to our channel to support it. Finno-Ugric Animism. Ancient religions. Shamanism, which as we have seen is the basis of primitive Finno-Ugric religion, is scarcely compatible with the idea of gods who are essentially superior to humanity, because the shaman is a shaman with his drum. The Finno-Ugric peoples believed that shamans were able to communicate with spirits both good and evil, and that they had the power to overcome the spells of the former and transmit the wishes of the latter. In order to enter into such communication, the shaman would beat with a spoon-shaped stick upon a sacred drum covered with Kabbalistic signs until a trance was induced. Lapped drum design. Capable of subduing everything with the magic of his spells. Shag's monism presupposes an elemental force in all objects which cannot be dominated by a greater force, namely that of the magician. Hence the animistic character of Finno-Ugric religion. The soul of things. For the Finno-Ugrians, every being, every object, was endowed with a soul which the Finns called haltia, the Votiaks uri, the Cheramis ort, the Tengri. Thus among the Votiaks dirt I is the soul of the corn, Busi urt the soul of the cornfield, and among the Cheramis pu ort is the soul of the tree. The soul is, however, indissolubly linked to the body with which it forms an indivisible whole. Having no independent existence, it dies with the body. That is why the Ingrians went to weep over the grave of the deceased and placed offerings there during a period roughly equivalent to the time of the body's decomposition. Afterwards the grave was no longer visited for, they said, there is no longer anything left of the soul. Before continuing with this topic, I would like to briefly introduce you to Finno-Ugric rites. Kanti, Mansi, Komis, Udmorts, Maris, Mordvins, Finns, Karelians, Vepsians, Izorians, Votes, Estonians, Livonians, Sami, Hungarians, namely Hun Turks and other ethnic groups in the Hungarian community, Mongolian and all Turkish communities. For example, Gokturks, Uyghur Turks, Hazar Turks and Oghuz Turk communities. However, we cannot make a 100% clear distinction between society. Because over time, all communities intertwine. There have been marriages, friendships and alliances. For this reason, skull racism is completely stupid. Today, every person has at least 5 different family trees, that is, she carries 5 different genes. It is not possible to have a single gene group. The reason is quite simple. It requires a human community to live in isolation from other people for hundreds of thousands of years. In this case, there will not be a different nation. People change from a different nation to a very different species. Evolutionary biology tells us this. These groups of people I'm talking about used to be shamans, whether they are Christians, Jews or Muslims nowadays. Even though their external looks are different from each other today. This is due to biological events such as adaptation and natural selection. These beautiful peoples are descendants of common ancestors who survived the last ice age. These beautiful peoples are descendants of powerful peoples who survived the last ice age. Let's continue from where we left off to our main topic. For the Vogels, the heart and the lungs were the seat of the soul. Thus their warriors would eat the heart and lungs of the vanquished in order to absorb their vital force, that is, their soul. Other tribes attributed a particular importance to the skeleton, the framework of the soul as well as of the body. The Lapps, for example, would avoid breaking and destroying the skeleton of a sacrificed animal, believing that the gods used it again for making a new animal. The belief that the soul lasts as long as the skeleton exists is also clear from the ceremonies of the Bears Festival, of which the Kalevala gives us a curious description. After the bear had been hunted and killed, its flesh was eaten. Then its bones were put in a tomb with skis, a knife and other objects. The slain animal was treated as a friend and asked to tell the other bears about all the honors men had paid to it. The account in the Kalevala is merely a lyrical paraphrase of this custom which was practiced among the pagan Finns. Just as all animals possessed a soul, so did all plants, the earth and the waters. When the Lapps of Kola cut down trees in the forest, they never omitted, before felling the tree, to kill it with a special blow of the axe. Otherwise the tree would not burn properly on the fire. When the Finns drew water from a well, they would pour back 2 drops so that the well should not be killed. Hence man was surrounded by a multitude of living beings against whom he must ceaselessly be on guard and whose goodwill he sought to win by prayers and offerings. Thus in the mountainous regions of the Altai and Siberia the natives, who have remained shamanists, would attach bags made of birch bark to birch trees and fill them with gifts intended for the good spirits. Not long ago they still sacrificed horses and hung up their skulls and hides on poles. An obvious survival of a very ancient custom, since in the Kalevala Vainamwanan does the same thing with the remains of a bear which he carries to the summit of a mountain and suspends from the top of a sacred tree. The divine multitude. This infinity of spirits or genii who peopled the universe presents a rudimentary form of divinity. It was, as it were, an anarchical polydemonism. Absolute individualism reigned in this mythological world. There was no systematic organization and no genealogical order. All the gods and genii were independent of each other in their respective spheres of influence. The genii or gods who animated various beings, living or inert, were too closely allied to them to have a distinct individuality. This explains the indeterminate character of the gods in the Kalevala. We glimpse scarcely more than a vague attempt at anthropomorphism in the differentiation of sex between the divinities. Among the Votiaks there are 2 terms, Mert, man, and Mumi, mother, which designate the god and the goddess. Hence Korka Mert is the man of the house, or the spirit of the hearth. Obinmert is the rainman, Vu Mert the waterman. Shundimumi is the mother of the sun, Gudiramumi the mother of the thunder, Muzum Mumi the earth mother, and so forth. It is not easy to keep our bearings in this almost anonymous divine multitude. Only a few personalities emerge with a slightly more marked individuality, such as the goddess Mon Ino. This name was given by the Esthonians to the wife of Ukko, the god of thunder. She saw to the success of the harvest and the fecundity of women. Then there was Rot, the god of the underworld in Lappish mythology. But usually we meet only genii whose names merely recall their functions. Water spirits. Such, among others, were the very numerous water spirits. To Vu Mert, the Votiak's waterman, corresponds the Viisi Ember of the Magyars. He was a water genie who lived in lakes and rivers and was apt to demand human victims. When these were slow in forthcoming, those who lived beside the river would hear his mysterious voice crying, "The time has come and no one has yet arrived." After that someone was certain to drown. In addition to a waterman, Magyar mythology had its water mother, Viz Anya, and the maiden of the water, Viisi Lini. The appearance of these spirits always foretold misfortune. With these harmful genii may be classed the Kul, of the Ostaiaks who haunted big lakes and deep waters, the Va Kul, of the Zirians who was represented as a man or a woman with long hair, the Yankee Mert and the Vu Vozo of the Votiaks. When a Votiak drank water in a strange village, he would conjure away the possible malevolence of the Vu Vozo with this prayer: "Do not attack me. Attack, rather, a Russian woman or a Cheremis." On the other hand, the water sheltered benevolent spirits as well, such as the Tonks of the Vogels who brought men luck when hunting or fishing, and cured illness. The Asiga or Old Man of the Ob, venerated by those Ostaiaks who live beside the great Siberian river. The Vu Nuna, the water uncle, who defended the Votiaks against the wicked Yankee Mert. And the Vu Kutis, the aquatic aggressor, who, the same tribe believed, fought disease. The Finno-Ugrians also had sacred rivers and lakes. Among the Vogels these were the Jelpin Ya and Ihi Jelpin Tur. Among the Lapps, the Passé Jaka and the Passé Javer, inhabited by the Tchatseolmai or watermen. Among the Finns, the Pagajoki and the Pagajarvi. Waterfalls and torrents also had their divinities. The Finns of Finland had a large number of aquatic divinities, among whom the most widespread was Naki, genie of the water. The population of the west and south of Finland still believes that in lakes there are places which are bottomless. Such places are entrances to the kingdom of the water god, who lives in a superb castle filled with riches. Naki emerged from his abode and came to visit the earth at sunrise and sunset. He could assume all kinds of shapes. When bathing, one had to cry out before diving in, "Naki, come out of the water. I'm the one who's in the water." For protection against Naki, it was useful to toss a coin into the water and recite this exorcism: "May I be as light as a leaf and Naki as heavy as iron." We could similarly enumerate the spirits of the forests and the trees. All of this, however, belongs to the study of folklore rather than to mythology. The myths in the strict sense of the word are rather rare. The Kalevala has preserved a few, such as the myth of the origin of the serpent, that of the origin of iron, and of the origin of fire. Fire came from a spark which Ukko made when he struck his flaming sword against his fingernail. He confided the spark to one of the virgins of the air, but she negligently let it escape from her fingers, and the spark rolled through the clouds, through the 9 vaults and the 6 lids of the air. Finally it fell into a lake, where it was snapped up by a blue trout, who was gulped down by a red salmon, who in his turn was swallowed by a grey pike. Vainamwanan, aided by Lilmarinen, succeeded in catching this grey pike. He freed the spark which, after causing numerous fires, was captured by the hero under the stump of a birch and shut in a copper jar. The Lapps preserve a myth concerning the creation of man by a divine couple, Mater Acha and Mater Akka. The former created the soul, his wife created the body. If the child to be born waste be a boy, Mater Acha sent it to his daughter Uk's Akka. If a girl, he sent it to another daughter, Sar Akka. The product of this celestial creation was then placed in the womb of its earthly mother. The Sejda of the Lapps. The same Lapps distinguished a wooden god, who in the form of a birch trunk represented the god of thunder, and a stone god, who had the aspect of either an animal or a man. Traditions concerning these two divinities are, however, extremely vague. More concrete is the existence of certain sacred stones, called sejda, which the pagan Finns put in various places and which can still be seen in Finland, Karelia, and above all in Lapland, where they are especially numerous. The sejda, called saivo or sate by the Lapps of Sweden, served also as talismans. Castron relates that a Lappish sorcerer named Lampsalo owned a sejda, thanks to which he caught large quantities of fish. On the opposite bank another sorcerer was in despair at catching nothing. One night when Lampsalo was asleep, he stole his sejda and the fish came swimming into his nets. But Lampsalo procured a new and more powerful sejda, and all the fish swam back again until the rival sorcerer destroyed his sejda. Conclusion. We see in the above example the usefulness and importance of magic talismans in Finno-Ugric belief. It was thanks to these talismans that a man could control the countless haltia scattered through the universe. It was by the secret magic of sorcerers, by the sacred chants of the eternal bards, that he succeeded in penetrating the great mystery of nature and in communicating with the forces hidden in the deep origins of things. That was why as soon as the imperturbable old Vainamwanan began to sing to the accompaniment of his cantelk, all the animals drew near to listen with delight to his joyful tunes. The austere old man of Tapiola, all the forest folk, the queen of the woods herself hastened to enjoy the beautiful harmony. The eagle deserted his eyrie and the wild duck the deep waves. The lovely virgins of the air also lent an attentive ear to the voice of the great hero. Kutar, the resplendent daughter of the moon, Pavatar, the glorious daughter of the sun, dropped shuttle and spindle. Otto, king of the blue waves with his mossy beard, rose from his humid kingdom and reclined on a bed of water lilies. The virgins of the water's edge, adorned with reeds, forgot to smooth their luxuriant hair, while the sovereign of the billows, the old lady whose bosom was enveloped in willows, emerged from the depths of the sea to hear the wondrous melody of the kantele. And thus the lovely Finnish poem brings before our eyes the picture of a mystic and sacred festival in which are united the forces of nature, beasts, men and eods.